Most people don't believe in haunted places. Not until they walk into one. In the small American town of Cedar Ridge, there's a motel people avoid after dark. A place hidden behind tall pine trees and a cracked neon sign that flickers like it's trying to warn you. They call it the Maple Crest Motel, but locals simply call it the place where the girl disappeared. For years, the building stood quiet. Some say the walls are thin, others say the shadows inside are even thinner. But everyone agrees on one thing: no one should ever stay in room 108. But last summer, someone did. Evan Miller, a 21-year-old college student on a long drive home, pulled into the motel just after midnight. He was exhausted, running low on gas, and too tired to keep going. The motel was the only place for miles. He didn't believe in ghost stories. He didn't believe in warnings either. But he would, just a few hours later, because at exactly 3:12 a.m., someone, or something, began knocking on his wall. And what he heard next should not have been possible. Evan woke up to a sound he couldn't place at first. A soft, slow knocking. Knock, pause, knock, knock. It wasn't loud. It wasn't frantic. It sounded patient, like someone who had been knocking for a long time and was willing to wait even longer. Evan checked the time on his phone, the screen glowing in the dark. 3:12 a.m. Exactly. The knocking continued, steady, calm, almost polite. Evan sat up in bed, heartbeat rising. He tried to shake off the fear. Maybe it was another guest. Maybe someone was lost. Maybe. But then he realized something that froze every thought in his head. There was no room next to his. His room was on the corner. On one side was a wall. On the other side was empty air. And yet, the knocking kept coming from the wall at his left. Knock, knock, knock. Evan whispered into the darkness. Hello? Who's there? Silence. He stepped closer to the wall. Every second felt heavier than the one before. Then, from the other side of the wall, a girl's voice whispered back. A faint, trembling voice. Can you help me? Please, I can't find the door. Evan stumbled backward like the floor had vanished beneath him. The voice wasn't angry or threatening. It sounded scared, lost, like a teenager crying for help. But the strangest part wasn't what she said. It was how close she sounded, like her mouth was pressed right up against the wall. Evan looked again at the map taped behind his door. His stomach dropped. Room 108, the room with the disappearance, wasn't even on his side of the building. So why was her voice inches away from him? He stepped closer, breath unsteady. Where are you? He whispered, and the girl said something that made the whole room feel colder, heavier, wrong. I'm right here, but everything is dark, and he won't let me out. Evan's eyes watered. The voice sounded like someone trapped, terrified, begging for anyone who would listen. But then, the lights in the room flickered, and the doorknob to his room slowly began to turn.
Evan froze, staring at the doorknob as it twitched, turning just a few inches, then stopping. Someone or something was on the other side. The room felt colder now, heavy, like the air itself didn't want him to breathe. The girl's voice whispered again, this time directly behind the wall, softer than before, shaky, desperate. Please, open the door. I finally found it. I don't want to be alone anymore. Evan backed away from the door, shaking his head. He didn't know what was happening, but every instinct screamed at him not to open it. He whispered, I can't. Who are you? There was a long pause. Too long. Then the girl whispered for words that chilled him to the bone. I used to live here. Evan felt his skin crawl. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Something about the way she said it, empty, broken, didn't feel human. Outside the door, footsteps began to move, but not normal footsteps. These sounded wrong, slow, dragging, uneven, like bare feet sliding across old carpet. They moved past his door then stopped, completely. Evan held his breath. He reached for his phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, nothing. The motel was swallowing him whole. The footsteps began again, but this time, they were moving toward his window. Evan crept toward the curtain, heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. He lifted the edge just enough to see outside, and that's when he saw her, a figure standing in the middle of the parking lot, barefoot, head tilted, long hair covering her face. She wasn't moving, not even breathing, just standing there, facing his window, as if she knew exactly where he was. The strangest part wasn't her stillness, it was her shadow. Her body was facing the window, but her shadow on the ground was facing the opposite direction. Evan stumbled back from the glass, heart racing uncontrollably, and then his phone buzzed. A notification. He picked it up with shaking hands. The screen showed one text message. "Why did you leave me alone?" Sent from unknown. Time. 3:12 a.m. Evan dropped the phone like it was burning him. He didn't know where the girl was now. He didn't know how she got his number. He didn't know why she chose him. But he did know one thing: she wasn't outside anymore. He could feel it, deep in his bones. She was closer, inside the building, searching for him, room by room.
Evan forced himself to breathe, slow, quiet, careful. But every breath felt like it echoed through the room. He didn't dare look at the window again. He didn't need to. He could feel she wasn't out there anymore. There was only one place she could have gone. Inside. Evan grabbed his shoes with shaking hands and moved toward the door. He wasn't planning on staying, not for another second. But when he reached for the doorknob, he noticed something that made him pull his hand back. The metal was cold. Not normal cold. Not midnight cold. It felt like ice. Like someone had been holding it. From the other side, just moments before, he swallowed hard and slowly unlocked the door. The latch clicked in the silence. He opened it an inch, peeking into the hallway. There was no one there, but the hallway felt wrong. Every motel hallway looks the same: yellow lights, old carpet, peeling wallpaper. But this one felt empty, like the building was holding its breath. Evan stepped outside, closing the door behind him without a sound. The lights above him flickered once, twice, then buzzed with a low, dying hum. He moved down the hallway carefully, listening. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. Until drag, scrape, drag. A soft, dragging sound echoed from the far end of the hall. Evan froze. The sound grew louder, then stopped suddenly, as if whatever was moving realized he could hear it. He whispered to himself, "Please, don't be her," but he already knew. Who else would be awake at 3 in the morning, in a deserted motel, moving like that? He forced himself forward, every step heavier than the last. His mind kept flashing back to the girl outside, her shadow facing the wrong way. Her voice behind the wall, her text message, as he reached the middle of the hallway. He saw something. Not a person, not a shadow, a small, dirty handprint on the wallpaper, at child height, smudged, dragged downward, like someone had been sliding their fingers along the wall. Evan swallowed hard. There were more of them, leading toward room 108. He took a step closer, then another, and then the lights above him went out, all of them. The hallway fell into complete darkness, not dim, not shadowy, pure, suffocating black. Evan couldn't see his own hand. He couldn't see the walls. He couldn't even see the floor. And then, from somewhere in that darkness, a voice whispered right behind his ear. A trembling, cracked voice, "You found me." Evan spun around, heart stopping, but there was nothing. Just black, empty, cold. And then a hand touched his shoulder. He felt the ice-cold fingers brush across his skin. He didn't scream. He couldn't, because the girl's breath, warm and slow, rolled across the back of his neck. "Please, don't leave me again."
Evan stood completely still in that dark hallway. The girl's cold hand pressed against his shoulder, and her breath slid across the back of his neck like a winter breeze. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, frozen, as the darkness around him felt heavier with every second. Her voice came next. Not gentle, not soft, but hollow and broken. "Why did you leave me?" Evan clenched his jaw. The voice wasn't meant for him, but it wrapped around him like a memory he never had. He forced his voice out, calm but shaking. "I don't know who you are. Please, stop." The grip on his shoulder tightened, not like a scared child, more like something that didn't want to let him go. The air turned colder. The hallway lights flickered once, revealing her for a split second. Her face was pale, drained of life, her eyes hollow, her mouth stuck open in a scream that must have been her last moment alive. And then the lights snapped off again, burying them both in darkness. Her voice moved closer to his ear. "You heard me knocking." And you never opened the door. Evan shook his head hard, voice deep and desperate. That wasn't me. I wasn't here. I swear I wasn't here. But she didn't care about the truth. She stepped closer, and he could hear her feet dragging slowly across the carpet. She whispered again, each word heavier than the last. Someone has to take my place. Evan felt something grip his wrist cold, sharp, and unnaturally strong. He pulled, but the grip held him like iron. The air around him twisted, the hallway trembling as if the building itself was alive. And then, without warning, the entire hallway shifted. The carpet dissolved. The walls stretched. The lights dimmed to a deep, sickening red. Evan blinked once, and suddenly he was no longer in the hallway. He was standing inside room 108, and behind him, the door locked itself.
Evan stood inside room 108, and the moment the lock clicked behind him, the air changed. It felt heavier, colder, like the room hadn't been opened in decades. The wallpaper was peeling, the floor stained, and the air smelled like damp earth and rusted metal. Evan whispered to himself that this couldn't be real, but everything felt too sharp, too detailed to be a dream. A faint humming sound echoed through the room, low and constant, like someone whispering just below the edge of hearing. Evan followed the sound and noticed the bathroom door slightly open, a thin yellow light leaking through the crack. He took a deep breath and pushed it open. Inside, the mirror was fog even though the room was ice cold. As he wiped it with his sleeve, a shape appeared behind him in the reflection. The girl. She stood inches from his back, her head tilted, her eyes dark and empty. Evan spun around, but she was gone. Only the silence remained. He turned back to the mirror and froze. The reflection wasn't his anymore. It showed a young man he didn't recognize, blood on his shirt, fear in his eyes, standing in the same room on a night years ago. The girl's reflection appeared beside him. She was alive in the reflection, crying, banging on the door. Evan watched helplessly as the young man, whoever he was, looked at her, stepped back, and closed the bathroom door on her. The mirror cracked. Evan whispered, "That wasn't me. I wasn't here." But the girl's voice surrounded him from every direction, shaking with grief and anger. "He left me. He heard me scream. He let the room take me." Evan staggered back, heart racing as the walls began to pulse like living skin. The girl appeared again, flickering in and out of the dim light, her voice breaking as she spoke. "You're the only one who answered. The only one who came back. The room chose you." Evan yelled, "Why me?" The girl stepped closer and whispered, "Because you didn't run fast enough." The lights snapped off. The door to the room unlocked on its own, and in the darkness, Evan heard footsteps approaching him slowly. Not hers, someone heavier, someone alive, someone who had been in this room before. Evan backed away from the sound of the footsteps as they grew closer, heavy and steady, echoing through the darkness of room 108 like someone walking down a long hallway underwater. He pressed himself against the cracked wall, breath shaking, trying to listen past the pounding in his chest. The footsteps weren't like the girl's fragile dragging sound. These were controlled, slow, and deliberate, like someone who knew the room well. Evan whispered into the dark, asking who was there, but no answer came. Only the low hum of the room, vibrating lightly, like something beneath the floor was shifting. A faint light flickered in the corner, and for a moment, Evan thought he could make out the silhouette of a man standing near the door. Tall, broad shoulders, head slightly tilted down. The shape didn't move. It just stood there, blocking the doorway, like a shadow cut out of the darkness itself. Evan's voice cracked as he whispered, "Who are you?" The figure didn't speak. Instead, it stepped forward once, and the floorboards groaned under its weight. Evan felt the room closing in, the air thick with something old, something angry. He tried to move toward the opposite wall, but the room stretched again, walls bending, ceiling sinking lower as if the room itself refused to let him escape. The figure stepped closer, and Evan could finally hear its breathing, slow, harsh, like someone forcing air through a damaged throat. Then a second sound joined it, coming from the bathroom door behind Evan, a soft tapping on the tile, rhythmic and steady. The girl's voice rose again, but this time it wasn't a whisper. It was a broken sob, echoing through the room. "He locked me in. He wouldn't let me leave." Evan spun toward the bathroom, but the door slowly pushed open on its own, revealing a shadow crouched on the floor, shaking. The tall figure behind him exhaled sharply, and the room's lights flickered with the force of it. Evan realized something horrible. He was standing between them. The girl behind him, the unknown man ahead of him, and the room wanted him in the middle. Evan yelled, "What do you want from me?" The man's voice finally answered, low and distorted, like it came from deep underground. "Someone has to stay." Evan felt the temperature drop instantly, cold ripping through his skin. The girl's hand wrapped around his ankle, trembling, desperate. The man stepped closer, raising a hand as if offering him a choice. Evan looked from one to the other, breath shaking uncontrollably, and in that moment he understood room 108 wasn't haunted by accident. It was a trap, a cage. Something inside it needed a replacement, and the room had already decided who it wanted. Evan pushed himself up from the hallway floor, every muscle in his body shaking as he stared at the closed door of room 108. The motel around him was silent, unnaturally silent, as if the entire building was listening to his breathing. He backed away slowly, keeping his eyes on the door, terrified it might swing open again. His phone buzzed suddenly in his pocket, making him flinch hard enough to nearly fall. He pulled it out and saw a notification. He didn't expect a missed call. Unknown number, time-stamped at the exact moment he escaped the room. 3:12 a.m. Evan's throat tightened. His hands trembled as he tapped the voicemail, raising the phone to his ear. What he heard wasn't a voice. It was breathing. Slow, close, right against the microphone. Then the girl's voice whispered, faint but unmistakable, "You left me again." Evan dropped the phone, terrified, as the hallway lights flickered violently, humming with a pitch that made his ears ache. He could feel something pressing against the door from the inside. No movement, just a steady pressure, like invisible hands flattening against the wood. The floor beneath him vibrated softly, and the buzzing in the lights grew louder, as though the entire motel was waking up. Evan whispered to himself, "I have to get out of here. I have to leave now." He turned and ran down the hallway toward the lobby, every step shaking, every shadow looking like it might move. When he reached the front desk, the clerk wasn't there. The chair was spinning slightly, like someone had stood up in a rush. The computer screen glowed with the login page. A cup of coffee, steamed, half finished. Evan called out, but no one answered. He circled behind the counter, and that's when he noticed the CCTV monitor's 6 small screens showing different parts of the motel. Hallways, stairwells, parking lot, and room 108. The camera for room 108 showed the door shaking, vibrating, like something was pounding on it from the inside. But there was no sound. The camera feed was silent. Evan stepped closer. The shaking stopped. The door in the camera slowly unlocked itself, the latch sliding open with unnatural smoothness. Evan whispered, "No, please no." The door in the camera creaked open just an inch, just enough to reveal darkness inside. And then, as the camera refocused, he saw an eye staring out from the crack of the door. A girl's eye, wide, desperate, and locked directly on the camera, locked directly on him. Evan stumbled backward as the girl's voice came through the lobby speakers, broken, choked, echoing through the empty room. "You can't leave me here." He ran toward the exit, pushing the glass door with all his strength. It didn't move. It didn't even shake. The motel had locked itself, trapping him inside. Evan's heartbeat thundered in his ears as the truth settled over him like a heavy weight. The room wasn't asking him to rescue anyone. It wanted to trade him. It wanted to close the cycle. The tall figure stepped even closer, and the dim light revealed deep scratches across its face, long gouges, like someone had clawed at it desperately in their final moments. Evan realized with a sick drop in his stomach that this man wasn't alive at all. He was the last person the room had claimed, a previous victim, a replacement from years ago. The girl clung to Evan's ankle harder, her fingers trembling like she had been trying to hold onto someone for decades. The man pointed to the bathroom, his voice rumbling like thunder inside the walls as he spoke again. "Someone stays. Someone leaves." Evan felt the floor shift beneath him, bending like soft clay, as if the room was choosing where to swallow him. He tried to pull his leg free from the girl's grip, but her strength was terrifying, far beyond anything human. Her voice rose sharply, filled with pain and fear. "Please, don't make me go back. Don't make me stay alone." Evan shouted, "I don't belong here. I didn't do anything." The man's head tilted at a slow, unnatural angle, and he stepped so close Evan could feel the freezing air pouring off him. "None of us did." Suddenly, the door behind the figure blew open with a violent gust, revealing the motel hallway outside. Bright lights, empty carpet, the world Evan knew. The exit, his way out. For a split second, the room hesitated. Evan lunged toward the open doorway, but the floor jerked like a living thing, pulling at his shoes, trying to drag him backward. The girl shrieked, her voice splitting with desperation as she tightened her grip. "Please don't leave me here again." Evan fell forward, catching himself on his elbows, half in the hallway and half in the room. The air outside felt warm, real, alive. The air inside the room felt dead, rotten, wrong. The man grabbed Evan's shirt, pulling him backward with impossible strength. Evan clawed at the carpet in the hallway, dragging himself an inch at a time. The girl screamed louder. The room groaned like a living beast ready to claim him. Evan used the last surge of strength he had left, twisted his body, and ripped free from their grip, sliding into the hallway and slamming his shoulder against the opposite wall. The door to room 108 snapped shut instantly. Every sound stopped. No footsteps, no voices, no breathing, just silence. Evan lay there trembling, staring at the closed door, realizing one horrifying truth behind that door. Something was still trying to take his place, and now knew his name. Evan pushed against the motel's glass doors with every ounce of strength he had, but they didn't move an inch. It was like the motel itself had sealed him in. The lights above him flickered, humming louder with each passing second, and he knew the room wasn't done with him. He looked back toward the lobby and saw the CCTV screens switching feeds rapidly. Hallways, stairwell, parking lot, until every screen stopped on the same image. Room 108. The door was open again. Darkness filled the doorway like smoke spilling out of a furnace. Evan whispered that this couldn't be happening, but the girl's voice echoed from the lobby speakers, soft and trembling. "Someone has to stay. Someone always has to." Evan stumbled backward, breath shaking, as the air turned ice cold. His breath floated in front of him like fog. The front desk chair slid back slowly on its own, and the hallway behind him dimmed to a deep red glow. A tall shadow stepped onto the stairwell landing, the man who had been trapped before him, his body stiff and broken like a puppet being held up by invisible strings. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just watched. Evan tried to run to the emergency exit, but the metal bar shocked him with a jolt of freezing pain the second he touched it. The lights above him popped, one by one, sinking everything into heavy darkness. Footsteps began behind him, slow, dragging, familiar. The girl stepped into the lobby, her head tilted, hair tangled, eyes empty and dark. She whispered, "You can't leave me alone again." Evan backed away, shaking his head, but the floor beneath him rippled like water, pushing him toward the hallway leading to room 108. The man stepped closer. The girl reached out her hand. The motel groaned like something massive was waking beneath the floor. Evan shouted that he didn't belong here, but the girl whispered that none of them did. The pull became stronger. The hallway stretched, and the open door of room 108 waited for him like a mouth ready to swallow him whole. Evan clawed at the wall, trying to hold himself back, but invisible hands wrapped around his arms and legs, dragging him closer. The girl leaned in, her voice breaking. "It has to be you. I just want to go home." Evan fought, kicking, yelling, grabbing at anything he could touch, but the room pulled harder, stronger, determined. The man placed one cold hand on Evan's back, giving the final push. Evan slid across the threshold into room 108, screaming as the darkness swallowed him. The door slammed shut behind him. The lights in the hallway steadied. The air warmed. The motel went silent, peaceful. The girl stood in the hallway, now looking almost alive, her skin brighter, her posture steadier. She took one breath, then walked toward the exit doors. They opened for her without hesitation. She stepped outside into the night, and for the first time in 26 years, she was free. The next morning, the front desk clerk returned for his shift. Nothing seemed unusual at first, until he passed room 108. The door was closed. Quiet. Still. He hesitated, staring at it with a sinking feeling in his stomach. Slowly, he reached up and flipped the wooden sign hanging beside the door. It now read, "Occupied. Do not disturb." The clerk let out a long, tired breath. Another one chosen. Another one taken. And that night, at exactly 3:12 a.m., new sound echoed through the motel. 3 slow knocks from behind the door of room 108. Knock, knock, knock. A new voice whispered from inside. A voice that wasn't hers. A voice that had only arrived last night. Evan's voice. "Please, let me out." But no one ever does.